What's up, guys? In this video, we're going to be talking about roaming and leaving lane. These two things are what make mid lane so broken. If you can maximize your roam potential with Camille, you'll be able to snowball games super easily and effectively. To do this, we must first go over the thought process behind roaming, what you should and shouldn't do. I have outlined some questions here and some subcategories. So let's just get right into it. So I also have a game open and I will be demonstrating certain concepts. So when to roam? This is a very difficult question to answer because there's so much game context required. There's another subcategory I can put as win conditions. That's something I need to mention. Because roaming, it's very effective, but it's a trade-off. You have to understand that when you roam, you're trading something for something else. You're trading lane presence for a game, pretty much. And if you're trading lane presence, that means you could be losing CS, you could be allowing the enemy to get plating, right? And this might be a good trade in a situation where you don't care if their mid laner gets ahead, because they're not the win condition. For example, if you're 5-0 and the Yasuo is 0-5, it doesn't matter if he gets plating or if he gets minions. He is irrelevant for the rest of the game. There's no reason to focus on him anymore. This would be a perfect time to roam. That's a very easy example. There are more difficult examples with the more difficult comps. So let's get back to this question a little bit later. Let's first talk about things that stay constant, such as wave. There are good times to roam depending on where your wave is, and bad times to roam depending on where your wave is. So right now, this is actually perfect. This is a perfect time for me to roam, right? The wave crashed into the tower, so we can assume that I pushed it. And let's say this is where I'm level 3, right? This would be a perfect time to roam somewhere. Because what happens is, there is about 30 to 40 seconds before I need to actually CS a minion. If you notice when the wave crashed, right? Even this melee is still not dead, right? So I could have, as you can see, I was able to walk all the way into the river, stood still for like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. And then after, you could say that I ganked bot, I can come back mid. And all I lost was 3 melees. But the most important part about the wave state is that not only do I lose very little minions, this wave pushes back to me. And the reason why is because, as you can see, the red side reinforcement minions gets to this skirmish faster, which will speed up the fight for the red side, and it will make it disadvantageous for my side, and it will overwhelm these blue minions, and it will push back to me. And even this cannon, it stepped up into tower aggro, it would still push back to me even if the cannon and the melee didn't do that. So while I'm like away roaming, I would have missed nothing. Even if I invested a minute of time, maybe we wanted to dive after or something, as you can see, as long as I get back to mid fast enough, I won't be missing any minions. Now this is like a super, that's why that timer was super good to roam. I could either recall, I could have recalled or roamed in that situation when I have the wave shoved in, which is why you want to typically shove in the wave before you do anything, before you leave your lane for any reason. So when would be a bad time to roam? Well, let's say there's a huge wave stack like it is here, right? Let's say I have a freeze going, and then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, let's gank bot. Well, controversially, the reason why this is such a horrible roam is because I'm losing a freeze. I'm losing like at least 100 something gold worth of minions, right? And I'm losing all this EXP. EXP is super important for solo laners to get. Level advantages mean everything in this game. So I could be getting a kill, but that's not worth the EXP that I'm losing, since getting level 6 is super important on Camille, and like I said, level advantages are insane in this game. So as you can see, I'm losing a shit ton of minions. I lost turret plating, right? And even if I get 1 or 2 kills, it's barely worth it, and that's only if I get 2 kills, right? And if I don't get 2 kills, if I only get sums or something, I come back to missing all those melees. I'm not going to get this cannon, right? That's just really, really bad for me. This is all another reason why Emax is so broken on Camille. You can get the cooldown down to 8 seconds, and then you can just get around the map so easily and quickly. So that's like, that's essentially like what you're looking for roam timers for the majority of the time. When you have a wave shoved like this, right? Once again, We can even see, right? We can even like, this is like a, stacking 2-3 waves is something else you can do. Just stack 2-3 waves like this, shove it into the tower, and you can look to go roam now. So like I said, look at how these melees are not in danger because these casters are focusing the tower. So that means this wave is super healthy, right? I was able to run all the way through the jungle. You can, say that I'm killing someone or doing something, right? I just, killed their bot laner. Great. Awesome. Okay, now it's time to go back mid, right? Look at that. I lost 2 melees for that. 2. And the wave comes back to me, and it's frozen. So it's just like a win-win-win for me at this point. Because I got kills in some spot. Best case scenario. The wave comes back to me, so I can freeze it. And even if the person on the enemy side is crashing, because I understand there's no one here. Even if they were crashing the wave, it doesn't matter. Because even if they crash it, I'll be able to get here as the wave's crashing. And so what if I miss a wave of minions? It's so worth getting sums or getting kills, helping out your team, right? It's so worth it because that's how you snowball your game. And the lower elo you are, the more likelihood that when you roam, there won't be a ward and there won't be a kill. Or there will be a kill because they'll play it wrong. There won't be like any words, right? If you also notice, right, when you are playing mid, it's so important for you to be paying attention to enemies. This is the other subcategory that I want to talk about. We talked about the wave, right? We talked about, we're going to get back to this a little bit later. We talked about timers, right? This is essentially what a roam timer is. There are certain situations in the game where it's optimal to roam, and you can set up these situations by controlling the wave properly. And as you can see, one of the ways you can wave manage is you can stack up 2 or 3 waves, especially level 1. If you are against Kassadin or something, you can stack up 3 waves against Kassadin, shove it in, and then look to roam. You can't really do this against someone that beats you level 1, but against someone that you beat level 1, you can definitely do this. This is something I do all the time. Another subcategory I can put is enemy information / unexpected. So with this, right, I talked about, optimal times to roam. But see, there's so much to talk about. It's really hard to get myself organized here. Let me go back to the other point that I was trying to talk about, which was awareness, right? We're going to skip ahead to awareness. So I think it's more correlated than what I'm about to say. I don't want to change subjects back and forth. So awareness is super important, right? Because if you are constantly aware of what cooldowns are used on who, then it'll make your roams way more effective. If I know my bot lane does not have... If my bot lane has flash, right, and their bot lane does not, because I've been paying attention with F keys, right? I talk about F keys all the time. You are going to be able to get kills really easily because a flashless ADC is so vulnerable to a Camille flashy, right? Like there's almost, I don't even have flash. There's almost like nothing they can do about it at that point. If you guys invade level 1 or something, you mark the summoner spell timer of when, I need to change captures, of when, then when they use their sums, you can punish that super effectively if you manage waves properly and you roam properly. So another roam timer, right? So that's just awareness, right? So using F keys, right? Keeping track of sums, asking your teammates when sums are used constantly, right? You want to make sure that you're always aware of what's going on in the game. You should not be tunnel visioning on yourself. So this leads me to my next point of, I completely forgot what I was going to say, actually. It was something that having to do with, whatever. We'll just go back to the list. I forgot what I was going to say. Anyways, all right. Oh, yes. Okay. So another roam. Yeah, I remember now. Another roam timer, right, is off of a recall. So I know I said, you can crash a wave and then you can roam. But you can also crash a wave and then recall, buy your items, right? Maybe get boots or something. And then now you can just go bot lane and gank through bot lane. This is one of the most effective ganks in the game. Because everyone has the constant awareness of junglers, right? Of people ganking through lane like this, through tribush, through this. But there are two gank angles actually I want to show you. So the first one is going through lane like this. This is super effective because there's no vision that can spot you out at this point. Because even if they warded here for some reason, you can always hug this side. And Camille can gank from this angle. Most champions can't, which is why this is so effective. Only Camille can really gank this angle effectively. So pretty much if you come through here with flash or something, it should be a guaranteed kill. The other point I want to make is having to do with setup as well. You don't want to be... I'll get to that actually later. I'll get to that later. Because I'm trying to keep this as organized as it can be. Another gank angle, the second gank angle that I want to show you, was ganking through here. If you know this is warded, this is warded, this is warded, you can sneak, or maybe if you know this is warded, right? How can you gank bot lane if these two bushes are warded? Well, you can go around here, and you can take enemy tower, aggro, and you can just E like this, right? And then now you can you'll take one tower shot, but who cares? You're full HP, right? You can flash on whoever is here, and then even if they flash away, you have your R, you have your shield that will block a tower shot, right? So the game's about to end, so I'll have to make another one, but it's fine. I put the bots in so I could show F keys and stuff. I'll make another one. So the other point I wanted to make is unexpected, like this ties with unexpected, right, enemy information. You want to use enemies' information against them. When you know they have a shit ton of wards bot lane, that's when they're going to be playing the most up, because they have awareness of what's going on. So this is where you can do something unexpected, recall, and then run through lane and gank them like that, right? That would be a perfect time to do that. Or let's say it makes 0 sense for you to roam ever, for whatever, like maybe you have a huge wave crashing mid, right? But their bot lane has a huge shutdown, and you have to kill them in order to win, right? This ties with win cons, right? Then maybe this will segue into win conditions, right? If you can surprise your enemy and with a roam, and maybe you'll catch them off guard, it can be beneficial. So let me first talk about win conditions, right? So win conditions are what win you the game. Very simple. How do you determine what your win conditions are? Through game knowledge and through enough trial and error and enough playing the game. You'll start to realize what champions do when they're against certain champions, and how one comp is better than the other. One comp has this champion that needs to get ahead to get better. Generally speaking, ADCs are win conditions. Vaynes are win conditions. Scalers, Kassadin, Kale are win conditions. So I think a lot of people understand scaling pretty well. A lot of people understand what scales and what doesn't, because it stays the same pretty much in every game, what scales and what doesn't. Everyone knows Lee Sin doesn't, right? Lee Sin doesn't scale. So if we figure out what their win condition is in the game, let's say they only have Vayne. If they have Vayne, Lulu, and then their mid lane is like something irrelevant, right? Yasuo, you're able to fuck the Yasuo super hard. And then now the Yasuos are relevant, and their top lane is just a tank, and their jungler is a tank. There's no reason to ever roam anywhere but bot. And there's no reason to do anything other than affect bot at that point, because everyone in the game is irrelevant except for Vayne. The game hinges on whether or not Vayne can get ahead. So everything you do should be to stop their bot lane from getting ahead, and to be roaming as much as you can bot lane. So in a case like that, you can give up CS mid and do something really weird. Like, for example, this is something that will work better in high elo when people are paying attention more. When you clear the minions mid, you want to always make sure you walk back before you go right or left. Because if you clear minions and you just start walking this way and they can see you walking this way, you'll be seen and you'll be pinged away. So you don't want to do that. So what you can do is you can like clear minions mid or something, right? You should have prio because you're ahead. Clear minions mid and then run all the way back, right? Even go to the left here or something. Recall and then just run through lane and gank bot lane. It's like such an effective thing to do, because they see the Yasuo's probably pinging or saying that she recalled, right? And then instead of running back to lane, you can just sit here as long as it takes for them to walk up, and then you can flash and R, and it should be a guaranteed kill if you're fed. But yeah, that's having to do with win conditions, right? You don't want to do that if the win condition is not bot lane. You don't want to do that if you're giving up, because you're going to be giving up a lot of CS, right? It could take over a minute for the gank to actually work, because you have to recall, get there, then you have to wait for them to walk up, and then you can actually go in. So that's worth it if you're willing to give up all that CS. Sometimes that's the play. Sometimes that's what you do, but that's not going to be the case all the time. That's something you have to learn over time. You have to experiment with it. When should you all in onto one champion, and when should you not? Another point to make with that is, just because someone's ahead does not make them the primary roam target. So I know that kind of contradicts what I just said, right? But not really, because Vayne's a scaling champ. She's really weak early, so she's super easy to bully. Think of roams, like the way you gotta think of roaming is, the way you gotta think of winning this game in general is you gotta be a bully, okay? You gotta be a bully with whatever you do. So when you're ahead, you gotta stay ahead by just constantly killing the person that's behind. With that, right, if your top lane's behind, it's more worth for you to play for your winning lanes than it is for you to play for your losing lanes. Why is that the case? There's two reasons. The first reason is that if top lane is losing, it's probably because their matchup is bad. And even if you help them out with roams, it won't change anything because their matchup's losing. And if it's Riven, Renekton, and your Riven's getting shit on, anyone that plays Riven or Renekton or top lane knows how hard that matchup is. And even if you gank Renekton and get a couple kills, get sums, it won't change anything. Riven will probably lose 90% of the time. So why invest time into a losing lane like that? Why invest time into you're not going to get anything back for your investment, right? Because essentially a roam is an investment. You're investing your time, your resources, you're going top lane to help your Riven, and you're not going to get anything back for it. She's not going to carry you. She's not going to be useful. She's going to get shit on the whole game. So we can even talk about a more neutral matchup like Riven Fiora, right? That's a matchup that would be perfect to roam in because one side gets ahead of the other, and then now it's a hard snowball for whatever side wins. So that's a great matchup to roam in because you tipping the balance will change everything. An example of when another time where you shouldn't roam is when you have a matchup that's losing, right? Because, or you have a lane that's losing, not necessarily a matchup that's losing. Because if you have a lane that's losing, what does that imply about your laner? It implies that they're bad at the game. So why would you invest any of your time into a losing player, right? If you're top lane 0-7, why gank top at all? They're not going to do anything. Or even if they're 0-3, if they get solo killed 2-3 times, don't help them out. It makes no sense. They're bad at the game because they're losing, right? They're clearly outclassed. So why waste your time on them? You should look for your winning lane. You should play for your winning lane. This is what I mean by you have to have a bully mentality. You're not trying to make up for your losses. You're trying to keep your wins going. You're trying to extend your leads, right? You're trying to extend your winning lanes, your winning players. So if your jungler's winning, roam with your jungler, right? If your bot's winning, gank for your bot. It's also way easier to gank for lanes that are winning because that means that your bot lane will have better chances of dealing damage and walking up, right? Because if you're losing super hard, you can't really walk up and you don't do that much damage. You'll have a better chance of winning the actual fight, right? And we'll talk about more of that later, what I mean by that. You have a better chance of them not having sums, which makes it super easy for you to gank. You won't even have to use sums if you know they're sumless. And it also makes it able for you to dive. If your team's winning, you can just have them crash the wave, and then you can walk around this way and dive the enemy bot. So what do I mean? Let's go back to what I was saying about how higher chances of winning the fight. So this is another point, right, that I have listed. Now I'm kind of jumping around. This is honestly just a regurgitation, but I feel like I'm just spitting out a bunch of information, but that's because there's so much, it's really hard to organize, so I'm just getting it all out there. I'll try to keep it more organized. So, pretty much, right, if you are in a game with 2 TPs on the enemy team, you have to expect those TPs to be used. So, if you're ganking for a losing lane, and then they TP, you just die, right? If you're ganking for a winning lane and they TP, there's a chance you can turn that. That's another bad time to roam that I did talk about, right? Looking at TPs and globals and junglers. This ties in with junglers, right? Junglers and TPs make it harder for you to roam because if they show up to counter gank, it could be detrimental for your team since it will be a losing fight. If you're outnumbered or if their champs are better. So when you roam, that's another thing you have to think about. You have to have awareness of where the enemy team is, of who has what abilities, of if they have any globals available, which is why I hate playing against Galio. With all my heart, I hate playing against Galio. Because he stops roams better than any other champion in the game. Since his R is, Shen is another great champion that I fucking hate to fight against because they stop roams, right? TF, same thing, but he's not as potent. But Shen and Galio, if they have a Shen and Galio, this is why I pretty much dodge most Shens and Galios. Because it's just too hard to do anything against them. They just have so much pressure. They'll take TP and they'll take R. So they have 2 ways to group up with their team early game. And it makes it unbearable for you. Because if you have a losing team and you're trying to roam to get back ahead, Shen and Galio will stop that. So, you got to think about these things before you roam, right? That's got to be in your thought process of when you're going to roam and when you're not. Who can stop me? Who can do what to counteract my roam? That's something you also have to learn over time. Or if you notice that you have TPs up and the enemy doesn't, that's another great time to roam. Because maybe you could bait a 3v4 if the jungler's there and you have TP up. So I think I'm doing, I think I have a couple more points to make. Desperation is, I think, the last point I'd like to make. And I'll try to tie everything together. So desperation, sometimes you have lost lane. You're doing poorly. You got shit on. You got outplayed. You lost the 1v1, whatever the fuck. And now you're so far behind, you literally can't do anything to win lane again. This is the perfect time to give up everything and roam. You have no reason to stay in mid if you can't even walk up to CS and you're just going to get abused, right? Why not just play for your winning lane and just give up every resource to get them ahead? Don't take kills, right? You're too far behind to take kills. You're no longer the win condition. You used to be the win condition in most games until you lose that privilege by dying and losing. So play for a winning lane. Do the thing I talked about where you can recall and then just gank through lane. Use your only invest flash into bot lane, right? Give every kill to your ADC, and maybe that's how you can come back. You'll get assist gold, right? You'll get plating, you'll get Drake that way, and you'll get your teammates so far ahead that they'll do all the work for you. You can pretty much be a secondary support and just roam and non-stop gank bot lane, right? Until and if it doesn't work, so what? You had no other way of winning. You lost lane, you got hard shit on. You have no other way of winning, so you might as well do something desperate to try to come back. So pretty much to tie everything together, right? Roaming is very complicated because there's so many factors that go into it. Who can TP? Who can respond? Junglers, are they in the area? Do you even have gank potential, right? Do you have good champions to roam for? If you don't have, if you have like, Ezreal Nami, that's so hard to gank for because they don't have any CC or any setup. If you have Thresh Tristana, that's super easy to gank for because they have so much engage and so much CC and so much reach. You have to constantly be asking yourself these things. You have to be looking at sums, right? Seeing who has sums up, who doesn't, which is why I'm using F keys constantly when I'm playing. You have to think about how you want to play out the gank before you even go, right? Do I want to, E flash or do I want to flash E? Do I want to flash at all? Do I want to just get sums? Do I want to bait out cooldowns before I second E? All these questions, right, you have to be constantly thinking about. So that's why roaming's really complicated. Roaming timers, right? You don't want to just leave lane at any time and lose a lot of CS. You want to try to make sure the waves crash before you leave. So that way you don't lose that much minions, right? You can come back to a wave that's frozen after you roam. And ultimately, yeah, just figuring out what's going to win you the game this game. Is it going to be your tank matchup top lane, right? Is Sion Malphite worth snowballing? Should you roam and prioritize roaming top lane when you have a Sion and a Malphite fighting each other? Absolutely not, because tanks don't matter. It doesn't matter if tanks get ahead or not. They're still going to be tanky and beefy and hard to kill. And tanks are only relevant when they have a backline to tank for. The controversy to that is someone like Riv and Fiora, right? If you have a matchup like that, it's important to roam for them because skewing that matchup in one way or the other could mean the difference between winning and losing the game, because both those champions snowball super hard. And if you have a fed Riven and a useless Fiora, the game's a 6v4 because Fiora can't do anything, and vice versa, right? It's not like Fiora has CC, it's not like she's tanky, she can't set up anything. Same with Riven. Those champs have to get gold to get ahead, and you can influence that by roaming for that matchup. That's a great win condition, for example. So, all in all, right, roaming is something you have to just like constantly be improving on. It's not a skill set that you're going to learn in one day, right? You're not going to be perfect at it. No one's perfect at roaming. Everyone roams at bad times. Everyone messes up. Everyone makes mistakes. Sometimes roaming poorly can potentially lose you lane. So you have to like be cautious about that. I'd say as a rule of thumb, only roam when you're almost 100% sure you're going to get something out of it, because you can lose your lead very easily if you over roam and you keep losing CS and you keep getting nothing out of it. Like I said, you're investing time into roaming. It's a time investment. You're investing your time. So you have to make sure that you only roam when it will be the most beneficial to you and your team. That depends on, like I said, timers, some spells, wards, information the enemy has, who the win conditions are, how much you're actually going to lose mid lane. It doesn't matter if you're giving up CS and EXP in the matchup you're in, who can counteract you and counter gank you, right? So how much setup do you actually have bot lane, right? What escape spells do they have? What engage spells do you guys have? So you should try to implement these things, right? I know it's really hard to think about all this stuff during the game. So that's why it's important to think about before the game even starts. If you have a roam timer, where would you like to go? That would be a great thing to do, because you'll subconsciously think about the some spells of, not subconsciously, you'll actively be thinking about how much engage you have bot lane, right? If you notice when I get into champ select, I analyze everything about the lanes I have, right? I analyze, do I have much gank setup bot lane, right? This is why I dodge a lot, right? Because if I notice I have no gank setup anywhere, I have a losing matchup, all my lanes are losing matchups, they have globals, right? There's no reason to play a game like that out, because it's just too hard to do anything. If you notice you have a lot of setup, right, you can be thinking about just going bot lane more than anything. Just go bot lane because you have a lot of CC, and they don't, right? If they have Kai'Sa, Nami, you have Thresh and Trist, right? That's an easy lane to gank for. You'll be able to get so many kills bot lane if you just keep going there. So let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm very sorry that the organization of this video was pretty all over the place. I think it's kind of the only way I can really do it, because there's so many points linked together, and in order to understand certain points, you have to understand something else. So you kind of just have to jump around everywhere. But let me know if I can clear up anything for you, if I can make any more points understood, because I know this video is probably chaotic. But I think the information is really good. It's just kind of hard to interpret. Anyways, like I said, use the comments to your advantage here, because roaming is an essential part of the game. It's how you can win games easily. If you understand how to roam and you understand when to rotate, you can just tilt the enemy bot out of control. You can roam with your jungler as well, right? Get everyone ahead, win games super easily, super fast. I have videos on it before where I've gotten 14 kills in 19 minutes playing Riven mid, because I just roamed a shit ton, right? It's pretty OP when you can maximize it. But anyways, yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Please ask me questions. Don't feel bad. I want to answer your questions. But yeah, I hope this helps.